The prison drug trade. You'll be shocked to find out how much drugs go for in prison. Let's go. Soberdog. K-Rugs, the Soberdog coming at you. Anybody new here, I did do 4 years in prison, a little bit of the New York State tour. I was at 9 different prisons in New York State, both medium and maximum. So, not the world's expert, but I've done drugs in every one of those prisons I went to. Before we get into it, remember, Soberdogs does not promote or condone any drug use. Please seek professional medical help if you have an addiction. Let's get straight into it. The prison drug trade. Now, before we get to how much it costs and the insane sizes of the stuff that you're buying, it's crazy, and I'll show you pictures. We'll get to it in a minute. How does it get in? This is a big thing. I did a long video on this. I'll put a card up, but the mail package system is a big one. Crooked blackmailed guards is a big one. And probably the biggest one is inmate visits. Those are the 3 main ways drugs are getting in. There's a couple other ways. Check out the other video to find the other ways out. But that's mainly how it's getting in. Basically, once the drugs get into the prison, their price goes way up. Just like the border, when drugs are in Mexico, as second they get into the US, the price goes way up. It's no different with drugs in prison. When they're on the street, the price is what it is. The second it gets into a facility, the price goes way up because you're taking that risk. You got, guards watching 24/7. Basically, you got the risk of an outside charge. So if Susie is smuggling in drugs to me on an inmate visit, if we get caught, here's what'll happen. First of all, I'll go straight to solitary confinement. Then I'm going to get charged with an outside charge so they can add on to my prison time. Then Susie's also going to get charged with an outside charge. All said and done, my 4 years might be turned into 6 years in prison, and Susie might be doing 1.5 years in prison for her, whatever, depending on her background, what they charged us with, all that. So there is a major risk to trying to smuggle drugs into prison. There was a specific guy and girl I know when I was in, this guy, we were waiting for him. He was supposed to bring stuff in one day, and his girl, everything worked out. They had done it tons of times before. We're all excited. There's like 10 of us waiting back at the dorm. Oh, can't wait for, I'm going to say R, to bring the stuff back. Oh man, R's bringing the stuff back. And apparently him and his girl had developed a pretty smart way of getting it past the guards. It had something to do with, so when your family came to visit you, they could bring like food and stuff that would get checked out through the guards, and that would, if it was approved, you could have it. Also, they could bring you shoes. Apparently, they had cut somehow through the bottom of the sole, the heel of a shoe, and filled it up with certain stuff and been able to plaster it back together. I don't know, in a way that was undetectable. I think they did it 3 or 4 times prior, no problem. So they're assuming it's going to go through this time. We're all sitting there waiting. All of a sudden, visits end. So-and-so never comes back. Uh-oh. Another dude comes back. Yo, they snagged up dude on the dance floor. They grabbed him and his girl, ripped him out of there. He's screwed. I end up seeing the guy about 8 months later at a different prison. We were in a solitary together at a different prison. I hear him calling on the gate, yo, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, is that so-and-so? Yeah. Yo, what the hell happened to you? What happened at Collins? Yo, man, they got me. They snagged me up good. He got a 1 1/3 to 4 added on to his prison sentence, and his girlfriend got 6 months in county jail and probation. So it's no joke smuggling stuff in. You will do time if you get caught. That is the risk. Here is why a lot of people are willing to risk it. The big question, how much do drugs cost in jail? A generic rule of thumb, and this is basic generic, and it can change based on state, prison, facility, demand, supply, all of it. So this is just rough. Whatever something costs on the street, it'll be 5 to 10 times that cost in the facility. So that little dime bag of weed will cost $50 to $100 in the facility. Now that also depends on what the person's doing with it. If they sell it wholesale, if they break it down and roll a bunch of little small joints out of it, all depends on what they do with it. What they'll do is they will roll pinhead joints, little tiny joints where basically you take a dime bag of weed, you could roll 10, 11, 12 of these little pinhead joints out of it. And they'll sell each of those for 10 bucks a piece. That's a lot of money. So that dime bag, if the girl can smuggle them in 10 of those, that's $100 they paid on the street. If he breaks those down into 12 each, little joints to roll, and the guy, let's say, doesn't smoke himself, that means he could turn that $100 into $1,200 in about 2 days in prison. And what he'll probably do is send his girl all the money back. She reinvests some of it, brings him more the next week, and then uses the difference to pay bills or to save or whatever they're doing with it. There's a lot of money to be made. That is why people are willing to risk it. I was never willing to risk it. I never tried to have anyone smuggle it into me. Suboxone is another big one. That is an 8 milligram strip of Suboxone, a normal strip. That strip on the street goes for anywhere from $5 to $15, give or take. Inside prison, that strip is being broken down into 12 pieces, each piece going for 10 bucks. So just like the joint, if roughly both of these are closer to 10 if broken down. Wholesale, I remember paying 60, 70, 80 for Suboxone, and I've heard other guys at different prisons, depending on what's going on, how much is available, paying all the way up to 110, 120, 130, even 200 in certain federal spots for a strip of Suboxone if it's the only thing available. There is a huge markup through the freaking roof. And they'll take that one little strip, some cases break it down into 16, 18 pieces, sell each of those for 10 bucks. Now you might be saying, well, Suboxone, how could somebody get high off that little tiny piece, an 18th of a strip? When you go months without taking anything, your tolerance unwinds, I should say, doesn't build. You go months without taking anything, it goes down, 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 almost back to zero, so to speak. So then when you do get something, even if it's that tiny little piece or that little pinhead joint, just taking 1 or 2 hits of that little pinhead joint would get me rocked. Because it was, a month or two before I smoked, the last time. Same thing with the Suboxone the first time. Getting that little piece, my opioid tolerance was nothing. So doing that little piece would get me rocked. But there is huge money in the prison drug trade, extremely risky, something I would never risk, but an insane markup, 5, 10, even 15 times what the street value is.